was scrolling through World Cup predictions the other night. One of those 30-minute videos where a guy ranks every single team from 48 down to 1. France was in the top 3. Spain, obviously. England, Germany, Brazil, Argentina, the usual suspects. And then he gets to the Netherlands and goes, yeah, solid team, probably quarterfinals, and just moves on, like he was ordering a side salad. I almost spit out my coffee because this man just casually skipped over the team that went unbeaten through qualifying, scored 27 goals in 8 games, and just dismantled Sweden 5-1 at an actual World Cup. Side salad. Here's the thing nobody seems to want to talk about. While the football world spent the last 12 months dissecting every breath Mbappe took at Real Madrid and debating whether England finally had the midfield to win something, the Netherlands were quietly doing something ridiculous. They topped their qualifying group without losing a single match. 27 goals, a plus 23 goal difference. Only Poland managed to hold them to draws, and even those felt like the Dutch just took their foot off the gas. But nobody made a documentary about it. Nobody posted a 45-second clip with dramatic music and the caption, "The Oranje are coming." Because the Netherlands don't have that one guy. They don't have the Mbappe, the Bellingham, the Yamal. There's no single face you can slap on a thumbnail and guarantee 2 million clicks. And in the content era of football, that apparently means you don't exist. But that's exactly what makes this squad terrifying. Ronald Koeman didn't build a team around a superstar. He built a team. And right now, heading into the final group stage match against Tunisia, this might be the most balanced roster at the entire tournament. Start at the back because that's where the Dutch built this thing. Virgil van Dijk is 34 years old, and people have been writing his obituary since January. Liverpool had a rough season. Konate couldn't stay fit. The whole backline looked shaky, and suddenly everyone decided Van Dijk was finished. Here's the problem with that take. This is a man who was competing with Messi and Ronaldo for the Ballon d'Or as a center back. Not a striker, not a winger, a center back. One bad club season doesn't rewire your football DNA. He still wins virtually every aerial duel. He still reads the game 2 passes ahead. And against Japan, when the Netherlands needed a goal, their center back stepped up and headed one in himself. That's not a guy in decline. That's a guy who knows exactly when to show up. Next to him, you have Jan-Paul van Hecke from Brighton. And then there's the depth. Nathan Ake at Manchester City. Jorel Hato, who just moved to Chelsea at 19 years old. Lucharel Geertruida, who came in after Jurrien Timber got hurt and didn't look out of place at all. 5 center-back options, and not a single one of them would embarrass you in a knockout round. Now look at the fullbacks. Mickey van de Ven at left-back is genuinely absurd. This is a center-back with the acceleration of a winger. Tottenham fans already know this. He'll be 40 yards inside his own half, and then suddenly he's sprinting past the halfway line, carrying the ball like he stole it. Is he the most polished on the ball going forward? No. But you're not getting past him. And on the right side, you have Denzel Dumfries, who just signed with Real Madrid. Against Sweden, he was whipping in crosses like he had a personal vendetta against their left side. Both of Brobbey's goals in that 5-1 demolition came from service out of that right channel. Dumfries created them. Nobody talked about it because the goals were prettier than the assists, but Dumfries was the engine. 15 of the 26 players in this squad play in the Premier League. Think about that. This isn't a team scraping together talent from mid-table clubs across 3 different leagues. This is basically an English top-flight all-star backline wearing orange jerseys. Everyone talks about the Spain midfield, Pedri, Gavi, Rodri, the usual conversation. People bring up England now that they finally figured out what to do with their central players. Portugal gets mentioned. But somehow the Netherlands midfield just sits there in silence like it's waiting for permission to be taken seriously. Frenkie de Jong and Ryan Gravenberch as a double pivot. Good luck. Both of them are so press-resistant, it's almost disrespectful. You can send 2 players at de Jong and he'll just glide past them like they're traffic cones at a Barcelona training session. The man doesn't panic. He doesn't speed up when you want him to speed up. He dictates the tempo, and if you don't like it, that's your problem. Gravenberch is the same energy, but with more physicality. Liverpool turned him into a monster this season. He can win the ball back, drive forward, switch play, and he covers ground like he has 2 sets of lungs. Together, they control the middle of the pitch in a way that makes it feel unfair for the other team. Koeman sets them up in a 4-2-3-1 so they can work as a pair, which is smart because neither of them is a pure destroyer. They don't need to be. They just suffocate you with positioning and passing. Then ahead of them, you have Tijani Reinders. Manchester City paid serious money to get this guy from AC Milan, and he's delivered. He's not going to dribble past 4 players or score 30-yard screamers every week. What he does is arrive in dangerous positions at exactly the right moment. He connects the midfield to the attack with the kind of timing that you can't teach. And with Xavi Simons out for the whole tournament after that horrific knee injury at Tottenham, Reinders has basically inherited the creative responsibility. He hasn't flinched. Behind all of them, you still have Teun Koopmeiners from Juventus, Mats Wiefer at Brighton, Quinten Timber at Marseille, and Martin de Roon, who's been doing the dirty work for Atalanta for years. That's 8 midfielders. 8. Most countries would be thrilled to have 3 of them. Koeman has the luxury of leaving genuine quality on the bench every single match. When your backup options include a Champions League finalist and a Serie A regular, you're not building a squad. You're building a roster that can absorb injuries and suspensions without blinking. And I think this is the part that people keep missing. We've gotten so used to measuring teams by their brightest individual star that we forgot what actually wins World Cups. Go back and look. Spain in 2010 didn't have the best player in the tournament. Germany in 2014 didn't rely on one guy to bail them out every match. France in 2018 had Mbappe explode. Sure, but that team won because Kanté ate every blade of grass in midfield and Varane and Umtiti locked the back door shut. The teams that win this thing are teams, not collections of highlights waiting for one man to do something magical. That's the Netherlands right now. There's no single player on this roster who's going to win you the Ballon d'Or this year. But there's also no position on the pitch where you look at the Dutch and think, yeah, that's where you get them. You can't target the fullbacks because Van de Ven will chase you down and Dumfries will outmuscle you. You can't dominate the midfield because De Jong and Gravenberch won't let you touch the ball. You can't sit back and absorb pressure because Koeman has 6 attackers who can rotate in and break you down in different ways. The Netherlands don't have a weak link, and in a tournament where one bad game sends you home, not having a weak link might matter more than having a superstar. Now, the one question mark people had about this squad was the attack. And honestly, it was fair. Before the tournament started, you could look at the Dutch front line and wonder where the goals were coming from. Memphis Depay is 32 and playing in Brazil. He barely got minutes at Corinthians after a thigh injury, and Koeman still picked him. Brian Brobbey had a decent season, but nothing that screams World Cup Golden Boot contender. Daniel Malen moved to Roma in January and looked sharp in Serie A, but has never really done it on the international stage consistently. On paper, it looked like the one area where the Netherlands might get exposed. Then the Sweden game happened. 5 goals. Brobbey with 2 in the first 20 minutes. Not scrappy tap-ins either. The first one came from Gakpo, beating his man on the left, cutting it back, and Brobbey arriving in the box at the perfect time with the perfect body position. The second was almost a carbon copy from the right side. Dumfries whipped it in, and Brobbey got across his defender and finished it. This is what makes him different from Malen. Brobbey doesn't need to get in behind. He'll play with his back to goal, he'll hold up the ball, he'll bully center backs, and then, when the cross comes in, he crashes the box, like his life depends on it. Koeman started him instead of Malen against Sweden, specifically for that reason, and it worked to perfection. And then there's Cody Gakpo. I genuinely can't explain this man. At Liverpool, he looks like a player who's still figuring out where to stand. In the Premier League, he goes missing for weeks. But the second he puts on that orange jersey, something rewires in his brain, and he turns into a completely different footballer. At the 2022 World Cup, he was one of the best players in the tournament. At Euro 2024, he was excellent again. And now at this World Cup, he's already got 2 goals and an assist against Sweden after being the most dangerous player on the pitch against Japan. He scored both goals in the second half against Sweden, one a sliding finish from a Dumfries cross, and the other a sharp near-post strike on the counter. Every Premier League defender knows he wants to cut inside from the left. International teams apparently didn't get the memo because they just keep letting him do it. Crescencio Somerville might be the wild card of the entire tournament. This guy hadn't earned a single senior cap before Koeman called him up. He was at West Ham, a team that got relegated, and still managed 7 goals and 3 assists in a sinking ship. Against Japan, he came off the bench and scored. Against Sweden, he came on in the second half and immediately changed the game with his pace and close control in tight spaces. Someone's going to pay serious money for this kid in the summer window, and they should, because he has that rare ability to make something happen out of absolutely nothing. And behind all of them, you still have Depay with 55 international goals. More than Van Persie, more than Bergkamp, more than anyone who's ever worn that shirt. You have Wout Weghorst, who somehow always finds a way to be useful at tournaments. You have Justin Kluivert and Noah Lang as options off the bench. Koeman can change the shape and the personnel of his attack 3 times in one match and still put out quality. That's not normal depth. That's the kind of luxury that wins you a semifinal when your starter picks up a knock in the 65th minute and you need someone to come on and not just hold the line, but actually threaten. The Dutch have been to 3 World Cup finals. 1974 with Cruyff and Total Football. 1978 in Argentina, 2010 in South Africa, where they lost to Spain, 3 finals and 3 losses. Every generation of Dutch football carries that weight whether they want to or not. And maybe that's why people keep sleeping on them. The story has always been the same. The Netherlands are brilliant, but they can't finish the job. So we rank them 7th or 8th and move on to the teams with trophies in the cabinet. But this squad is different, not because of one transcendent talent, not because of some revolutionary tactical system, because from goalkeeper to the last substitute on the bench, there's no drop-off. Bart Verbruggen is 23 years old and already looks like he's been playing World Cup football for a decade. The defense is stacked with Premier League starters. The midfield has 8 players who could walk into most national teams. And the attack just put 5 past Sweden like it was a training exercise. I keep thinking about that prediction video. The guy who spent 45 seconds on the Netherlands and moved on like he was ordering a side salad. Somewhere in North America right now, Ronald Koeman and 26 Dutch players are perfectly fine with that. They've been building this thing in silence for 2 years. Nobody made a documentary about it. Nobody put dramatic music over their qualifying highlights. And that's probably exactly how they want it, because the last thing you want to do at a World Cup is give the Netherlands a reason to prove you wrong.